Just recently, in early June, leaders of the most influential and powerful Western nations met in Cornwall, England, to discuss the state of the global economy. All the leaders of the G7 nations, plus the EU, were present to plan economic policies and actions that should be taken moving forward in order to keep global markets and the economy vibrant and healthy. United States President Joe Biden set the tone for the meetings of the three-day-long summit by decreeing austerity and gaining support for his carry-on spending plan. Biden's plan is rooted in the logic that in order to best combat inequality at home and abroad, it's essential that unprecedented amounts of money continue to be injected into the economy. This continuation of economic stimulus was fully supported by the leaders of the other G7 countries and is being framed as the key moment in which the West starts fighting back against the economic and political heavyweight that is China. Welcome to the Savvy Few, where we keep you up to date with what's going on in today's economy. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and bell notification so you can stay up to date on the world's economy. While the G7 leaders continue to tout the benefits of stimulating the economy through obscene spending, they are either failing to see or ignorant of the rapidly rising inflation rates that are devaluing their currencies. Currently, the United States is experiencing the most rapid increase in the price of consumer goods and inflation since the infamous recession of 2008. The U.S. Congress, combined with the help of the Federal Reserve, have created an extraordinary expansionary economic stimulus package in order to combat the effects that the pandemic had on their economy. The U.S. Congress has recently approved a $5 trillion package, while the Fed, through monthly asset purchases, has recently doubled its balance sheet to just shy of $8 trillion. Due to the combined efforts of Congress and the Federal Reserve, the price of everyday goods for the average citizen are steadily rising. The U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics has reported that the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, a metric to help study current inflation levels, is experiencing the highest 12-month increase since 2008, after rising by 0.8% in April and another 0.6% in May. Over the last 12 months, the All-Items Consumer Price Index for urban consumers is now up to a staggering 5%, with no signs of slowing down anytime soon. The G7 leaders are coordinating an attack on the traditional economic theories of monetarism. The U.S. is not, however, the only G7 nation guilty of printing money in order to keep their economy afloat. As modern monetary theory becomes more widely accepted across the Western world, federal governments are artificially holding their interest rates as low as possible while printing more money and more currency to shore up any slowdowns in their economies. Mario Draghi, former head of the European Central Bank and current Prime Minister of Italy, has championed economic fiscal policy throughout his political career. In 2014, during his tenure as head of the European Central Bank, Draghi was chiefly responsible for implementing negative interest rates, which have severely damaged the bond market. With the Western world aggressively adopting expansionary policies, their currencies will continue to be meaningfully devalued over time. The Western political leaders have now made it nearly impossible to easily retire, as it's now much more difficult to save a large sum of money and live off the interest rate as generations have done in the past. Given that interest rates are being held as low as possible and money is now being printed in exorbitant amounts, citizens will now be forced to work later into their lives to simply make ends meet. Just in the past few years, these same Western leaders, specifically Canada, and the European Union member states of France, Spain, and Germany have announced that they plan to raise their retirement ages from 65 to 67. This will force their citizens to work longer into their lives before they can collect any form of government pension. The G7 will continue to move ahead with its plan of devaluing Western currencies by increasing economic stimuli and offloading the costs onto its citizens by increasing taxes and the retirement age while keeping interest rates as low as possible. While the carry-on spending plan proposed by Biden may be the beginning of a nosedive for the U.S. economy, it has bought him an expensive acceptance and friendship among other G7 leaders, especially French President Emmanuel Macron. In a press conference where Biden and Macron sat benchside, Macron stated to reporters that he's happy to welcome Biden and the United States, quote, back into the club of like-minded leaders. This comes in stark contrast to the relationship Macron had with the previous United States president. Trump and Macron have undergone several heated exchanges centered around Trump threatening to leave NATO, which would have been disastrous for Western Europe and the European Union as a whole. Fast friends, Biden, Macron, and the rest of the G7 leaders are attempting to mask their disastrous management of the global economy by drawing attention to climate change. Nearly all signatory countries are still failing to reach their agreed-upon carbon emissions targets from the UN Paris Agreement in 2015. Despite this fact, however, the G7 leaders are committed to making even grander promises about saving the environment. Empty environmental promises are being made by the G7 leaders in order to distract citizens from the ever-looming threat of inflation and the devaluation of their currencies. Now that Biden is back in the club with the G7 leaders, Americans should expect to hear increased promises about environmental protection, but should not hold their breath, waiting for their targets to be met. With the G7 summit concluding, rising inflation will continue to be ignored by political leaders in favor of political talking points such as inequality and the environment. Little will be done to help solve the deeply rooted issues that cause these societal problems, other than promising more and more money to be printed and circulated into the economy. Given that Biden and the other G7 leaders are expecting to follow through with their carry-on spending plan, the G7 economies will continue to be artificially propped up as its citizens will be forced to pay for the reckless economic policy for years to come. Thank you for watching. Please like this video. It greatly helps the channel reach more savvy viewers like you who want to stay updated on today's economy. If you're not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button with the bell notification to get notified every time we post a new video. Until next time.